really are nice.
Oh, they're delicious, yeah. Oh no, live streaming available at the moment.
Oh, hang on. Try again. Reload. Hello, welcome back. We're here today. Look, I know we said we're going to continue on with the wrestling series, but I had an unusual pleasure in that a long-time student from 15 years ago dropped into training today, Josh Campbell. It was actually, I guess, in a roundabout way, probably introduced me to Josh because Mitch helped me get the gig teaching, doing the tackling at the Burleigh Bears Football Club, and Josh was playing in the Queensland Cup, and that's where I met Josh. And then he continued on. He came to the dojo and he continued on with his BJJ. He was my first blue belt student, and since then he's gone on and he's accelerated. He's a living example of that. What we always say is the only way you'll get good at anything is to train consistently, regularly, over a long period of time. And Josh now is on the edge of a black belt in BJJ. He's arguably black belt level. It's just a matter of catching up with your instructor. And yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd welcome Josh today because it was interesting at training today. We were talking, as we've spoken in the past, about Sorsai's 3 principles of training, and one of them is the tempo of technique, the timing of technique, and the tempo. And that tempo can express itself in many ways. And Josh rolling today, and he was talking with us after training, and he pointed that out from the perspective of grappling, not just stand-up. So anyway, this is Josh Campbell. I know they look alike. Look,
happy to be here.
This is what happens when you live a wild lifestyle. You end up 25 years younger than me, and you have no hair anymore.
Yeah. I think it's more spending years on the mat with like a full head of hair, and the pressure from Cam 10 years ago or more probably made it fall out.
Yeah, he's been very nice, but his nickname was Snowy because he had a mop of blonde hair.
Yeah.
Now it's glowy. It's not snowy. It's glowy because the light reflects off his skull.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome, Josh.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
We were talking about tempo. So we were going to do wrestling today. We're just going to do a short session and talk about one theme, and that's the theme of timing and tempo. Now, remember, as you know, I'm working on a new translation of the Book of Five Rings, and in that, there's the Musashi says there is timing in everything. Okay, and that word timing in Japanese choshi, and choshi can also mean rhythm. So the timing, as I have interpreted it in the past, rhythm is the timing within your own body. So it's the coordination of all your weapons working as one. Timing is the coordination of you interlacing with an opponent. Okay, and when you use that timing and you know how to use it well, what happens is, and Josh was demonstrating it today very beautifully, is that in a 10-minute round in BJJ or even a 3-minute round in karate, you can make the energy flow in such a way that your opponent is burning up 3, 4, 5, 6 times the amount of energy that you are. And then towards the end of the round, you still have energy to burn. Is that a fair call?
Yeah, I would think this is all sort of speaking from my experience in Jiu-Jitsu or grappling. I see it in various sports as well, so it's sort of transferable thing in the tempo. So it's not actually, you can learn a whole lot of techniques, which is nice. But at the end of the day, when you're versing someone of a similar level or even higher level, I think the difference is tempo. So whoever controls the tempo of the fight can sort of win at the late stages. And I guess if the tempo is working against you, you need to do some massive moves or massive changes to shift the tempo back into your corner. So I feel like it's not a technique; it's a principle and a concept that is transferable. Yeah, I'd say so.
Awesome. And you were saying just at training before, Josh, changing the rounds. Typically in a lot of striking sports, it can be a 3 or 5 minute round. In a lot of grappling, it can be 6 or 8 or 10 minute rounds, and you manipulate the time. And how do you approach the round? Say a 10-minute round, like your psychology is the first X amount of minutes, you do what? And then...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So obviously, if you're bound by a short amount of time, you're probably going to have to try force some things. The tempo may be much faster, just looking for something to come off. But if you know you have the 10 minutes, you can spend the first couple of minutes just assessing what's going on, where the weak points are in the game, and then the next sort of 3 to 4 minutes, starting to control the tempo. So if you find a weakness, you head towards it, and then you kind of wear them down over time. So I'm speaking for jiu-jitsu as well, like a lot of top heavy pressure, things like that. So you're continually on your partner. There's no space between you guys. So once you find that weak point, you drill into it, drill down, stay there, bunker down. It's not necessarily, maybe you can pass the guard, we call it in jiu-jitsu, we get past the legs and you can get on top and squash them. Maybe you're just sitting in that gray area, right in the exchange of
between passing and not passing.
Between pinning you down and not being engaged, it's right in the middle. So you stay in the middle field. Obviously, your tempo is better. You make sure your energy is low, heart rate stays low, and all your partner has to be doing is more work than you and have a higher heart rate than you. At the end of, say, 7 or 8 minutes, 9 minutes, your submissions or your actual passes and dominance from then is much easier. They almost want you to go there because they're sick of sitting in this gray area. They almost say, like, take what you want, I'm done, sort of thing. So,
and you're forcing him into that grey area by that principle. When you said look for a weakness, for example, people will pass one way, so you just go the other way, right? That's a weakness for most people. But you said something interesting before. You got one of the watches, right? That whoops that analyze heart rate data and so on when training. And you said you wore it for a while, even when training. And for 3 months, it said you weren't training, right?
Yeah, it was saying I was lazy. I'm lazy to a certain extent, but
that highlights the efficiency of the
sold the watch because it revealed the truth to the world.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell everyone I was retired all the time because it said I hadn't been training. But
yeah, he go home and tell his wife he's exhausted from training. She says, "Show me your watch."
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting observation with like some sort of more modern technology, to give the actual facts behind my sort of observation. And this is not like something I've made up or anything. I think you see it across a lot of things. I did maybe 22, so I'm 35 now, a long time ago, so 13 odd years ago. I was playing rugby league, and I think I was at my pinnacle of strength when I worked out the tempo, and that was purely because of Mitch's strength and conditioning, giving me the education of like 3 seconds down, pause, 2 seconds up maybe, or manipulating that. And to me, that's another form of tempo. It forced me into that area of being uncomfortable. Instead of having an opponent, it was all put back on me. Mitch was putting me in this position to get me tired. So it's similar. It's the same thing in grappling, and I'm not sure for sort of stand-up fighting and stuff like that. Just
a couple of things come to mind. I remember when I was doing the tackling, my philosophy was always a highly defensive player on a team might do 40 tackles in a game.
Yeah.
Now, if he's conserving 15 to 20% energy or 10% energy each tackle because of superior technique, superior use of gravity, and superior timing, then at the end of the game, in the last 10 minutes, he's going to have so much more energy in reserve. So right now, Josh and Mitch are talking about a 6, 8, or 10-minute grappling round. In karate, we might talk about a 2 or 3 minute round, but in rugby league, you're talking about 2 40-minute halves. So there's an 80-minute stretch of competition where the same principle can be applied, that even though you still have to respond from the beginning of the game with moments of intensity when the opponent is pressuring you, you can gain the tempo at the end by knowing how to use gravity and use technique. The other thing that comes to mind is when you talk about tempo, I think of chess, because in chess, quite often, the only difference between two top level players is one does what's called gain of tempo, and he's always just one step ahead. And it knows exactly what's going on, but there's nothing he can do about it, because every move he's forced into doing something else. He knows he doesn't want to do it, but he has to do it, because if he doesn't, that's the end of the game. And you mentioned Josh Waitzkin. Josh Waitzkin was a child prodigy in chess. I think they even made a movie based on his life. But he's also a BJJ black belt under Marcelo Garcia. You mentioned him.
Yeah, so I was just having a chat briefly to Mitch before about his podcast that came out with Joe Rogan. I thought it was quite fascinating in that sense that he sort of brought that up as well, in a sense that he's transferring his skills, focusing on the concepts into different sports, I guess. So he was saying, like, jiu-jitsu is a big mountain when you're new. Karate is a big mountain when you're new. You're so focused on the actual techniques, which there is a lot of, you need to learn all that. You need to have the time for that. But at the end of the day, it's the concept behind it that you take when you transfer it into another sport to get to a high level quicker. So if you can understand the concept, you might be changing an angle with your footwork for Kyokushin to avoid forward pressure. I'm not too sure. It would be the same for wrestling. So if your pressure is going forward, you're going to move in a circle motion. So the principle is to move in the circle motion, or the concept, it might be head height, head positioning, whatever it is. It's more. It's not a single technique. It hasn't got a name as such, like for a fancy move or whatever. But it's what behind that is what works, if that makes sense. So,
good one. Yeah,
it's something you can see.
Another
thing I was going to say is something that comes to mind for me when I'm teaching a lot of classes too, and staying in something for a long period of time, is you want to be like the little pebble in the shoe when you go for a walk. At the start it doesn't do anything, it's not annoying, but if you go walk for 100 kilometers, that constant pressure and tempo and the annoyingness can do massive damage to your foot. So I think you see this the best. You see it a lot in the UFC with the calf kick. It's constant, and then at the end of the fight, you can sort of see the last minute the rewards of that. So
we see that in Kyokushin a lot with the thigh kick. The first one may not hurt, the second one may not hurt. In fact, sometimes they ignore them, and when the fourth one lands, they go, okay, I really need to be doing something about this now. There's a couple of questions here. Hi, Ryan. Good to see you back. I'm going to leave that question about enlightenment for another day. But there is a question from Marco. My stepson is competing in his first BJJ competition at the end of the month. Third stripe blue belt. Any advice? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. First competition.
I like to say to my team that sort of compete, I got a few competitors in the same realm. I think the psychology behind competing, like I know everyone says, don't, you're here just to have fun, don't just enjoy the medal, whatever. I think if you be a bit more specific to him and just let him know that all he is doing is taking his skill set. So he's learned a skill set of jiu-jitsu, and he's chosen to test that in an environment that is a competition. So today, you take the same skill set and you take it to training every day and you test it as well. If you're going to take it to another sort of different environment, are you going to feel unsure about it? Yes, that's just the feeling that you're getting. So that's good. Okay. And then all you're doing is going to gain feedback from that system. So the skill set that you have is going to be tested and you're going to get feedback, good, bad, whatever it is. As long as you take that feedback in the right manner, go back into your more comfortable environment, work the system so you overcome it, or there's fewer times that is exploited or weaker, then that's overcoming adversity. So all we're doing is just repeating that over time. And I think even if he goes and wins a gold medal, and you got to, Mitch said to me years ago, keep the highs low and the lows high. So just stay in the middle and celebrate it a bit. Work out the feedback, even if it's positive. If it's something's good coming from it, we're going to go back, double down into that until we get to a certain level where we're getting some not so good feedback from it, and then just adjust and learn. That's how you develop a really, really solid game over a long period of time. It's just constant feedback continually.
What do you think, Mitch?
I don't have too much to add. I think that was brilliant, Josh. I really do.
I learned most of it from you.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
No, it's I think you're absolutely spot on. These are all opportunities for feedback. Every time we're in the dojo, I said to Shaun the other day, I feel like I'm in the lab, like a science lab. I did exercise science degree at uni, and you're testing all the time. You're looking for ways to create, or not to create, but to find failure in your opponent's technique. Opponent's doing the same thing to you, so you can tighten them up, learn something new, and move forward again and constantly improve. And I think if you've got that mindset, the competition isn't the be all and end all. It's a step in the journey.
I'd also add that you should have a game plan in mind, but also remember the old saying that all game plans fail at first contact. So just be prepared for the to allow your defensive skills to have their role, because most game plans are never based on defense. They're all based on you dominating everything, which rarely happens. So have a game plan, know which takedowns you're looking for. From a technical viewpoint in BJJ, about 75 to 80% of competitions are won by the one who gets the first points. So be the one to get the takedown points. And if you don't, scramble quickly to get the points back. And don't lose sight of the big picture. If this is your first tournament, by saying it's the first tournament, that would mean that you plan on doing more tournaments. If you're just going for a one-out thing, who cares? It's just, but if you plan on having a long-term competition career, which is what you should be doing, then you want to look at this as a stepping stone, win or lose. Because when you win, all it means is if you won against a certain group of guys on a certain day, against a certain set of circumstances, the next day you could fight the same guys and the result could be completely different. But we always remember those magic 3 questions at the end of the tournament. When you're driving home, when your nephew's driving home, ask, what did you do well? Find the things in that competition that you did well, from preparation, from the way you dealt with the initial contact. Maybe you got a good takedown. Okay. Then ask yourself, what didn't you do well? So if you lost a fight, it usually can boil down to one little thing or 2 little things that you just did a little bit wrong. And then the third question is, what can you do about that next time? So don't be one of those people that goes to competition and goes, yeah, I lost, but I really should have won. I just, that they cheated, or was a referee or something stupid like that. Ask yourself what you did well, what didn't you do well, and then address that at the next, what are you going to do about that at the next training session? So that's where the drilling comes in. And I think he'll have a good outcome, regardless of win, lose, or whatever. As long as he approaches it in the right mindset, you'll come away with a long-term beneficial plan for that. There you go. Okay. Ryan, what hidden knowledge have you uncovered through your translations of the greatest text, Book of Five Rings, and techniques where the Japanese words point to the essence of what's happening? Well, I think the number one thing is that the thing which encouraged me to work on a new translation of the Book of Five Rings, which is the word timing, choshi. And I can remember many times in Japanese tournaments where you'd be sitting there and someone would be moving. You can even train with the guy every day and you see him on the tournament mat and he's just smashing it. And in Japanese, you say choshi na, choshi na. Now, you could say his timing's good. It also means he's looking good, he's moving well, his rhythm is good. All those things can be covered by that one word. So choshi in Japanese means your condition, your timing, your rhythm, and everything is really, really good. So I think sometimes there are certain words in Japanese, and I find this is even more so in Indian languages, because I think in Sanskrit they have something like 27 different words to describe different states of human consciousness. We don't have that in English because we haven't pursued the depth of the human consciousness to the same level. So you'll find the same thing in any language. Even in English, we have words which they may not have in other languages. So the thing is, when you translate, is always a compromise. Do you translate the word or the spirit of the word? Again, sometimes you can't translate the word because there are more meanings to it. And so then your role as a translator is to understand the spirit of what the author is trying to say and use that energy to translate. With Musashi, the number one thing I found with Musashi and his 5 rings is virtually every paragraph in the books of instruction, in the chapters of instruction, every single paragraph finishes with, you must train to understand this. You must study this deeply. You must work on this. So everything that Josh has said, everything that Mitch has said, requires that long-term, consistent, regular training, so that it's not just a concept in your head. It's actually something that you can do with Mushin. It's something that you can do without having to consciously think. Gary O'Neill used to say to me when he'd fight in a tournament, his number one goal, his goal was never to knock him out, to hit him hard, to kick him. His goal was to take his opponent off their focus and concentration. And once he had the opponent thinking, then he had the tempo. He was always one step ahead. Even when he's fighting guys who are stronger, bigger, faster, fitter, it didn't matter. As long as he got them to think, he was able to then remain one step ahead all the time, because you can never think quick enough to react to good technique, I think. So there's I think, one of the main things that I see out of translation, Ryan, is it's always interesting when you try to translate a word into a language when the word may represent 5 or 6 different feelings at the same time. Thank you very much. Okay, it's really nice. I haven't seen Josh for a long time. Since I haven't seen him last time, I've got a little baby and Josh has got 2 babies, so he's double the man that I am. And he's working twice as hard. Anyone with kids knows that it's full-time work until the kid's about 13 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep training, because it's going to give you a little space.
That's right.
Josh came to training today and said to his wife, how long are we going to be? And he said 3 days.
Yeah. I was thinking about 6. So, yeah, I don't know how my wife does it, but training's a bit easier in that sense than looking after little kids.
It was so good to have you at training today too. It was awesome. So
I know. I want to do it a bit more.
We took a photo. Is this my camera? No, that's yours.
Yeah.
No, that's yours. We took a nice photo.
Chris Dunn.
Yeah, Dunny. Where?
Whoa.
Where's
the bottom.
Hey, Snowy.
Man, this is awesome. Blast from the past.
Beautiful.
Crazy.
Chris
Hope
Dunn.
you're good, man.
Mitch, when he was a teenager, he was an uchideshi in my dormitory with Chris Dunn.
Yeah.
They were mates together in the dormitory. So it's great to see you there, Chris, who just happens to be my sister's son as well. He's my nephew. But anyway, Us, Albert Ho, nice to see you. Rochelle, good to see you back. Marco, good luck with your nephew, I think it is. And I hope everything goes well. You too, mate. Yeah, good on you. Listen, guys, good to see you.
Thanks, Kev.
Thanks for coming along,
Awesome.
Josh.
Thank you, Mitch.
Mitch, good on you.
Yeah, really good.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We'll get back to the, unless we can convince Snowy to come and live here and train with us full time. He might be back next week, but otherwise,
at least 3 days.
But otherwise, we'll be back to the wrestling flow next week.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
fellas.
Thank you.
Us.
Bye.
See ya.